episode of Random Life that I wanted to do yesterday, but I felt sick, so that's why I'm coming up today. And the topic that I want to talk about is how to stop being a victim of your own decision. And this is the topic that I coach on a lot, you guys. And I really wanted to give you maybe three scenarios that are very different in some ways, but also coming from humanitarian lives. One is my own, and two other clients' decisions that where they felt like they were really feeling like powerless and don't know what to do. My situation, that type of thing. So one of the situation that I want to describe to you is an amazing humanitarian who took up an assignment recently in one of the African countries, and she went there and she actually she wanted to do that job, except that she wanted to base in another country. But currently, she was offered to stay in this country where she's currently temporarily until she sets up certain things. And therefore, her like even though the location was not ideal in her eyes, the way that she wanted to go for social life and settle, but currently in the duty station where she is, she feels like she's not really settled. She feels she's not really good at what she does, and she feels so much um, of this like she's failing. She's not really doing a good job. At the same time, she's not really there where she wanted. She actually wanted somewhere else, and therefore feeling this powerlessness, right? And we were discussing, we were coaching on this several sessions where I was asking her how she feels this powerless, even though that was the decision that she made. She could have made any other decision, but she did. But we were discovering how she didn't like the city where she was in, and she wanted another city, and therefore she didn't really feel like she wants to socialize the way that she wanted. She doesn't really feel settled. And then we were discovering with her how she feels like the problem that she's having is not because of all the judgments and thoughts that she has about the place, but so much because of the city or because of the work. And as soon as I was telling her how as soon as she keeps seeing the problem being the city or the job, then she will continue feeling powerless, right? Even though that's the decision she made, and she could make another decision of quitting and doing something else, or she could make a decision of advocating with her manager to go to another city where she originally wanted to be based, but because she just kept feeling a lot of this guilt of she didn't do a good job of advocating, and she just feels like a lot of this powerlessness, right? So as you can see that when we are victim of our own decisions, this is what we do: is we make a decision and then we go there and then we just expect things to be the way that we want to. We expect things to be easy in some ways. Maybe we expect things to be not basically after having made a decision and going to a duty station, we just believe that things should be the way that we roughly had imagined, and as soon as it doesn't go that way, which often does not, right? And therefore we just feel like stuck or powerless, and we just feel like that's not what I signed up for. And then we continue feeling powerless in that situation, instead of A, recognizing that this was our decision, and B, what am I going to do now that I recognize that these are the feelings I'm having, these are the expectations I had that were not met? What am I going to do now about that? Instead of doing that, we just stay and indulge in our own feelings of this is not what I wanted, right? So we stay in a lot of resistance, or we keep fighting, we keep not wanting to accept the reality, right? So that's one scenario that I think is very common for humanitarians to go through, and feeling like a victim of our own decision. Another type of scenario that is very common as well, maybe, is that we just kept going from one duty station to another. We just kept growing our careers. We just kept applying for the next thing, what's available. We just went and went. And then after 10, 15, 20 years down the line of having done this work, then we just feel like we're not really, like maybe we're not really as enthused as we used to. We don't really have that passion. We don't really um, uh, maybe even want to do the job, but we just feel like that's the only thing we know. And we just have to keep going, maybe because of the children, because of other considerations, because of starting something new wouldn't make sense. And that's when we tend to be uh, a lot in this pain of I don't really want to do what I have now. I can't really go for what I want now. And therefore I just have to be here, but I don't want to. And then again, feeling so much powerless and feeling like a victim of our own decision, right? So we just keep feeling like this is not what I wanted to do, but I have to do it anyway. And especially now that with budget cuts and with these difficult economic situations, then we just feel like we have to be here and we don't want to, right? So therefore, it's easy for us to again be a victim of our own decision. Now, then the third group that might be similar to the situation that I had when I transitioned and I became my own boss, or I became independent, no longer an employee, but rather starting to do my own thing. And especially in the beginning of my coaching career, I had a lot of this, oh my God, what am I doing? Is this working? It's not working, right? The identity crisis, and not really like knowing how to make things work. And in those moments as well, I remember so many times my self pity would come, and then my feeling of guilt comes, and shame, and all of this together. It makes a very dangerous cocktail, obviously. And then feeling like that's not how I imagined this would go. I just imagined this would just go beautifully, successfully, and I would just replicate my salary while living with my loved ones. That's really what I thought this would go, especially in the beginning, right? So that was the expectation that were not met. And then I was just feeling so much powerless in my own decision. And then in those times, it's very easy without the coaching. I remember feeling like I was so grateful for being coached because I was just feeling so much victim of my own decision. And when we are in such situations, then obviously we're not going to really go and problem solve and do the things or go for what we want because we just feel so paralyzed or anxious or just stuck, and we don't really feel like we can move on to what we want, right? So these are the situations that I have described to you that are very maybe different, that often occurs in humanitarian lives and also after transitioning. And then it becomes so easy to fall victim to our own decision, meaning that we make a decision and then we go and start experiencing the consequences of our decision, right? Be it going to a new duty station, be it changing a duty station, be it transitioning altogether to something else. And then we experience the consequences of our decision, and then we start feeling like that's not what I expected. That's not how I thought this would go. And then we just feel resistant so much to what's going on in our realities, and we keep fighting against our reality. And then we just create more pain than actually recognizing that this is actually the decision that we have made. So in such situation, notice that one of the first things that I want to share my observations of how it's going, like for my clients and for myself at the time, was that one of the first things that we do is that we just expect things to be a particular way. And if it doesn't go the way that we expect, then we just start feeling like, okay, I shouldn't have never done this, we get into regret, right? Or this is not how I thought it was supposed to be. We go into the resistance. Or in my case, I I immediately go to self pity, and I just start feeling like, okay, how this could happen to me, poor me, this was not how it's supposed to be happen. So this is the, like, whatever the go-to emotion that we really go to, whether we feel disappointed or frustrated or resistance, we just start going into those emotions. And in that moment, when we are in those emotions, it's very difficult then to recognize, like to zoom out and recognize that, wait a minute, we are the one who made this decision. And not in the way that to blame ourselves, or not in the way to say, like, reproach ourselves, to say, well, you shouldn't have done this. Why didn't you think about it, or whatever it is, right? Not in that way, because that's not useful at all. But in the empowering way of, wait a minute, I am the one who made this decision. I'm the one who also thought that in some way I will make this work, whichever the way that I want to. So if I keep indulging in this feelings of resistance or feelings of regret or self pity, then obviously I'm not going to be going far in whatever I want to achieve, right? So therefore, recognizing first that our when our expectation does not meet the does not meet what we thought it would happen, what the results that we thought it would be possible. And as soon as we don't do that, then we need to recognize that it will never, like, it will never probably happen from the first try, or even a second or third. And another one is that we, like, if we keep being in the indulging emotions of self-pity, resistance, guilt, regret, then obviously we're going to stall ourselves even further, or put ourselves even further back. We will we'll experience more setback, instead of going back to recognizing, I'm the one who made this decision, and now let me just go and figure out how to make this work the way that I want to, instead of like retrieving it, right? Instead of giving up a little, or instead of, oh, it's not going to work anyway. So you can notice how you might be feeling like victim of your own decision, and then realizing that that's not how I want to do. The other thing that I want you to really notice it is that no matter which decision we would have made, whether we would have stayed back where we were before, or we would have gone to something else, there will always be challenges that we need to encounter, right? This is just how life is. It's not something that I'm saying it's going to be like this, or it's not something that is new or like novelty. It's just how life is. So therefore, just because we have made a decision, just because we have made changes, does not mean that now we are void of any challenges, or now that we're not going to have any challenges. Of course we will have any challenges. So in some ways, not expecting challenges to be there, I think that's a bit of a naive thing for us to even go into, right? And of course, like when I was transitioning back in the day, I also thought to myself, yes, there will be challenges, but I was just like, yeah, I will somehow do something about it. I will just get over it or whatever, right? I didn't really take things seriously in the way to say, okay, when there will be challenges, what am I going to do? How am I going to encounter them? What are the feelings that I will need to allow for them to be there? I hadn't really factored in that properly. And therefore, as soon as we start living the consequences of our decision, and then things start not working the way that we thought it would, which is like bound to happen no matter which decision we make, right? But somehow we believe that that's not how it's supposed to be. And that's, I find, is on us really to like get curious as to, why do I believe that? Why do I believe that just because we made those decisions, now we will just smoothly sail through life, right? And therefore, I really want you to, like, after having observe that this was your expectation, this is what actually is happening, and then how are you going to make sure that you still go for what you want now that you have made this decision. You can still really see that if you don't allow yourself to be a victim of your decision, right? So, in other words, if you don't keep indulging in, this is not the city I was supposed to be in. I actually thought I would be in another city. Why am I here? Da, da, da. If we don't indulge ourselves in this type of narrative or stories, then what are we? Excuse me. What actions are we going to take? And to keep reminding to ourselves that we actually made the decision. We have a choice to back down or back out, or we have a choice to change the decision that we made. We have that choice, except that I often don't recommend that type of approach because we're just avoiding the next challenge that is in our like is coming up, and that challenge will be wherever we go to, no matter what decision we make, right? So therefore, since we know that no matter where we go, there will be a challenge, then I always suggest let's learn how to solve this challenge from an empowered place, from a powerful place, rather than try to solve it from a powerless place. Because when we are in this powerless situation, or when we are in this, oh my god, this all is not going to work, all is not working, that's not what I thought I would have, I made a mistake, it's a failure. If we go into that, then it's a lot harder to come out of this, based on my own experience. Therefore, in order not to go even into that rabbit hole in the first place, that's why I suggest for you to really look at, okay, whatever the decision I make, it's bound to have challenges, and I'm capable of making solving those challenges no matter which way I go. Therefore, I'm consciously going on this way. I understand that I am being resistant to the situation. I am being this a person who is feeling guilty or feeling pity, but I know how all of those feelings end, and I don't really want to indulge myself in it. Therefore, let me not be a victim of my own decision, and instead, how am I going to go fully on it and make the things work the way I want to, and then go to the other side, right? And the more we learn how to do that, the more we're not afraid of making any decisions, because we know how to handle the consequences of the decision powerfully, rather than we go into the rabbit hole of this is not what I thought it would be, right? And even the thought itself, this is not what I thought it would be, I think that's very um victim inducing, at least the way I feel it, like defeatist type of energy that I don't really want to entertain. Even though some of the times my brain wants to just go for it and say, okay, let's just do self pity because that's what I know best, right? And therefore my brain often offers it, but then my job is in that moment to observe what's going on within my brain, within my body, and then I just look at like a zoom out perspective of looking at what's going on, and I tell myself, okay, let's not just go into that rabbit hole, because if I go there, it will be more difficult to come out of it, right? So to sum up of all the things that I was talking about so far is that being a victim of our own decision is an option, and I really suggest not to do that, and not to try to solve things from being a victim either, because either way it will not lead to anything good. Because when we're trying to solve things from this powerless place, we will just try to solve it so then we can just get away with, or we can just find the immediate relief, and therefore we will not be looking a long term future that we really want to build. Therefore, I always suggest to you that whatever the decision you are feeling victim of, like, recognize or observe your feelings of what's going on, process those emotions, and then ask yourself, do you really want to continue being a victim of your own decision? And if not, then how are you going to solve these challenges instead of just backing down, instead of just retrieving and going to where you were or going to something else, because that will lead to another set of challenges that you need to solve either way, right? So if you need to do that either way, then do you really want to do this out of feeling victim of your own decision, or out of blaming yourself or hating yourself or criticizing yourself, which will not help at all? Instead, my suggestion is get yourself to the feeling of empowered, to the feeling of powerful, to say, okay, no matter what's going on, what are the challenges, I'm the one who made this decision, and I want to like um, follow through, or I want to make sure that I go to the end of making things work. I want until the end to the other side of where I want to be by solving these things, so I can feel even more powerful that I know how to solve these challenges. I don't need to run away. I don't need to go into the powerlessness feeling or pity feeling or shame feeling or blame feeling, whatever it is. I don't need to do that. Instead, let me powerfully solve these things and go to the other side and then feeling great about it. And then I gain the experience of making a decision, gain the experience of following it through, and feeling even more powerful in situations where it would be so easy for you to feel powerless or pitying yourself or whatever, right? So that's really what I would like to suggest to you. And of course, if you would like to have coaching on this, absolutely let me know. I would love to help you get out of your own feeling trapped or feeling stuck or feeling victim of your own decision, and then start making some powerful changes towards what you want. Have a beautiful week, everyone, and I'll speak to you